Hey guys, so today I'm going to be doing kind of a one-take tutorial. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, so there's not going to be a whole lot of production value in this tutorial, but today I want to address something that a lot of people have been asking for, and that is this. A little, I don't know what to call it, I think I'll call it Circular Step Wipe effect. Something along those lines. It's really simple to make. You just have to wrap your hand around it and really kind of break it down for what it is. So I'm going to go ahead and let me delete this comp so you guys can show you from the start. So open up After Effects and, start a composition as usual. I'm going to call this one Circular Wipe Bad Boy. Alright, cool. And then I'm going to make it 1920 by 1080. For something like this that's going to be used as an asset, you could actually go with a square aspect ratio, like maybe 2000 by 2000. And that's just so you can get all of the elements in there, because they're going to be perfect circles, they're going to fit in the canvas perfectly, and they're not going to be chopped off by the weird 16 by 9 aspect ratio. So it's up to you. I'm going to go, I'll just do 1920 by 1080, but you should definitely go 2000 by 2000. If you're going to be using this in any sort of project. So 1920 by 1080, and it doesn't need to be long. I'm going to make it like 3 seconds. Just really, it's supposed to be a really short effect, and you can always time remap it later to be longer. Since this will be using 100% shape layers, they are absolutely time remappable, and there will not be any sort of frame jitter, as long as you pre-comp and then apply your time remapping. So I'm gonna go ahead and click OK. If you want to see the transparent pixels, you can click that bad boy. I know whenever I make a tutorial, someone's like, my canvas doesn't look like that. And I'm like, well, I'm just gonna point out in every tutorial now, there's that thing. So yeah, so how we're gonna start is we're gonna go up here and click our ellipse tool. And if you don't see that, click and hold on whatever thing is there. It's probably gonna be the rectangle tool if you haven't been using shape layers a whole lot. And then click and hold, and then go to Ellipse Tool, and then boom. Here we have the Ellipse Tool, and I'm just going to go ahead and double click this icon, and that will make ourselves an ellipse. It's not a circle, it's an ellipse. Oh boy. So I'm going to go down here and click our shape layer, which we've created inside of our comp, and we'll go ahead to the search thing and search size. And that's going to bring up the size parameter for the ellipse. You can twirl down and find it yourself, but I like searching it because it's faster. I'm going to go ahead and uncheck the ratio lock here and go to, let's say, 200 by 200. And there you go. And that makes ourselves a 200 by 200 circle in the middle of our composition. And you might be asking, well, it's pretty cool. Doesn't look like anything we're going to be creating, but just you wait. So what we're going to do is I'll show you the wrong way and the right way just to kind of explain my thought process here. So I'm going to go ahead and take away the stroke, and you see we have our circle there. Cool. Now, in order to get the kind of this like radial wipe, what I originally did, and which kicked my butt because it was just a pain and a half to do, so I did the radial wipe effect. That was my first take at this. I was like, well, I saw this on a whole bunch of intros, and I'm like, I'm not sure how to make this, so I'm going to do a radial wipe. And like, yes, it's what we're going for. But oh my god, you have to like layer another one of these with an opposite direction, and then like to get the sliver, and then you have to animate them based off each other, and it's just a pain. So there's a much simpler way, and it's going to be using the shape layer trim paths function. So I'm just going to close and expand this to get everything. Now you see we have our ellipse path right here. If we go ahead and click on the ellipse 1 container for the path, we can go ahead and click trim paths. That's going to add it right below our ellipse path. And what I'm going to do is animate the start, and you'll see, well, that's not what we want. We want it to come out in a radial fashion from the center, not from the top of the path. So that's where more thought process comes in. What it's doing in essence is, if I get rid of the fill here and I show the stroke, is it's trimming the path, right? And since when you create, let's say this guy, and then I add a fill to him, you'll see that when I keep adding, oop, gotta click back into him. This is just demonstration, you don't have to make this guy. As I keep adding him, he's filling up to that point. Well, that's what's happening with the circle. Imagine this being a circle, and we're trimming it, so we're trimming it, right? Let me get rid of a point. How do I get rid of points again? G? No, G again. What did I do? Okay, I'll just click delete. And it's trimming the path like this, right? And you see how it's always filling based on that? That's why what we have to do is we have to figure out a way to fill this with a stroke. So let me get rid of this example shape. And sorry if I didn't explain it 100%. It's really hard to wrap your head around, but as we do this, I hope you start to piece it together here. So I've gotten rid of the fill because it's not really giving us what we want as far as the trim paths is concerned. So we have to figure out a way to fill this circle using stroke. So I'm going to delete my fill there. I'm going to open up my stroke, and since our shape is how big? 200 by 200. In order to fill this thing up completely, our stroke width needs to be 100. Or maybe not. Maybe it needs to be 200. Well, I'll bring this size down to 100 then. 100 by 100. And you'll see this is really what's going on. Just a big stroke that when we trim the paths, it does exactly what we want. And when we have the fill be the exact same size as the ellipse path, it looks exactly like what we want. And there you go. So the beautiful thing about this is you have not only a start parameter, but you have an end parameter all in one. And what I'm going to do with this is animate these both to kind of go together. Like if I clicked both of them using control and click both of them, it's kind of, oh, actually I can't. Can I animate both of them at the same time? Yeah, or it doesn't look like I can. But I'll show you what I mean in just a second here. So let's change the stroke to something like a nice bright blue here, so you can see what's going on. And I'm going to start both of these at 0 because it's going to start up at the top and it's going to kind of wipe around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keyframe both the start and end position here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to, let's say, 1 second. And what I'm going to do is go to 100 by 100, or both at 100%. And you'll see they should both be animating, right? Not quite. And the problem here is that, I'll show you, is that as soon as the start gets going, it's automatically erased by the end. So if I were to offset them just a little bit, you'd see this tiny little sliver go around. And the reason why you don't see that tiny sliver when they're lined up is because the end just clips it off. So we need to figure out a way to kind of slow down the end. And what you may be thinking is, well, let's just offset it, right? I mean, yes, it kind of works, but it doesn't really give us that fluid and elastic look we're going for here. So what we need to do is line them up 100%, so they both start and end in the same position, and then add variable easing to them. And I'll show you what I mean by this. So I'm going to select all of them, these 4 keyframes. I'm going to hit F9 to easy ease them, or you can right click and go to keyframe assistant and then easy ease. Okay, so that easy ease them, but they're not variable eases, so they're both covering each other up completely because they're doing both the same exact animation. One's showing it and the other's just, the end's just covering it right up. So what we need to do here is make sure we have both our start and end selected using control and clicking them both, and then going up here to the graph editor. And that's going to show us a graphical representation of our motion here. And you'd see it is eased because we did the easy ease, but these two have the same easing parameters, meaning they're covering each other up. So I'm going to go ahead and select my selection tool here by clicking V on my keyboard or going up there. And I'm going to mess around with the ease a little bit. So the start is the orange one, and if we could see the end, it would be kind of this pink one, but it's being covered by the start graph. And you'll see as I change this, we can kind of see the end line, which is in pink here, kind of right behind. And now what you want to do is kind of offset the eases. Now, what I did at first was I kind of offset them like this. And you see there's an intersection between these two graphs. And that basically means that at one point, the start and end will overtake each other. So it starts off looking exactly how I'd want it, right? Nice. And then all of a sudden, the end bit overtakes the start and they swap. Which isn't exactly what I'm going for. It's an interesting look, but it's not exactly what I'm going for. So you need to offset these eases in a way that they never intersect. So I'm going to kind of bring that guy in, and I'm going to click on the pink guy, and that's going to select everything, but I'm just going to play with this handle right here. Kind of bring him in a little bit, and you'll see there's no intersection at that, except for at the two endpoints, which is good. We want them to completely overlap each other at that point, or those 2 points rather. And you'll see when I ram preview this, it's exactly what we want. That's pretty sweet. It may not look 100% smooth because I'm recording this in 30 FPS, but pretty dang smooth as I'm looking at it here. So you can kind of bring these eases a little bit closer together if you want it to be kind of a more slim sliver, but get this to how you want to like it, because we're going to be duplicating this a lot, and getting this to a kind of a feel that you like is very important. You can change it later. It's just going to be a pain in the half because we're going to duplicate this a whole bunch of times and you'll have to change it in a whole bunch of different places, assuming you don't rig it using something like expressions to be dynamic. So there you go. That looks like a pretty good sliver animation going on there. So I'm going to get out of the graph editor, and we're going to click our layer and click U to kind of minimize this and only show what's important right now, the keyframes. And what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this. And we're going to bring them underneath the duplicated one, the shape layer 2. We're going to bring them underneath. And your initial thought, at least mine was, is that, okay, let's offset them by like 1 frame. So I'm going to drag this guy, or maybe 3. I think 3 is a good offset. Okay, and let's change the stroke color, not the fill color, because we're not using fills for this. And let's change the stroke color to kind of give us a little bit of insight as to the distinction between these two layers. And that looks to be working for about 90% of it, but you'll notice at the start and end, it, well, you can see, I'm not sure what else to say about that. It's not exactly what we want, because in reality, all that's happening is we're just changing the time offset. And yes, while it's lagging behind for the majority of it, you get this kind of gap at the start and end, which is not what we want. So to kind of break down why this is happening, let's open up the keyframes. And well, lo and behold, here the start parameter, the end parameter, or are we changing the wrong thing here? No, the start parameter, yeah. The start parameter is what should be covering this. Well, if the start parameter were the exact same as the start for this guy, then it would kind of, they'd both cover, or the top one would cover it up. So if that didn't make sense, I'll just provide a demonstration. So I'm going to line these guys back up again and only offset. See, they're completely covering each other because this guy is just directly on top. Only offset the end, because that's what we're going to see. We're going to drag out the end, and look, the end lags behind, but the start stays with him. So they don't have those awkward gaps at the end and the beginning here. And you can change the offset amount by how fast your swirly thing is going. I think 3 will be the sweet spot for my setup. So there you go. Boom, boom, boom. Successfully have 2 iterations, or maybe 4. We successfully have 2 iterations of this sweep guy. Let's go ahead and play back. Very nice. Cool, so that's 2. Now, I guess you guys can imagine what comes next. I'm going to do a little bit of this off camera, but you basically just duplicate it, press U to bring up the keyframes, and offset by the same offset you did the first time. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And of course, change the color to something else. I'll go with kind of a darker blue this time. And there you go. There's a third one. Nice. All right, and you'll do that as many times as you want. I'm just going to do one more. There's no point pausing if it'll just take a second. You'll see how fast this gets in a second. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and of course, change the color. Nice. Cool, so you've got this. Now you're wondering, how do I do, this is supposed to fill the whole screen, right? How do I do more? This is right now is really tiny. It looks exactly like how I want it, but it needs to fill the whole screen. And that's the second part of why the using stroke instead of fill comes in handy. Because if I select all these by holding shift and clicking the first and bottom one, and I click U, I don't need to see those keyframes right now, and I duplicate them, and I drag all these duplicate guys to the bottom just to organize things. Now what I can do is go up here and use the search with all of them selected and do size. It's going to bring up the size parameter, and I'm going to check all the linked aspect ratio because I'm going to be scaling these as 1. So I'm going to hold Control, click the first size, keep holding Control, click the second, the third, and the fourth, or as however many that you have, depending on if you did more of these guys. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it to 200. Or actually, if I keep dragging it out, is it 200 or 300? Might be. Just keep going until you see the gap emerge. And then bring it back. And fill the gap. Cool. Now, that just looked like it extended it, right? Well, here's when we can do the layer offset. So I'm going to hide everything by pressing U and then U again on my keyboard. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to offset these guys by, well, you guessed it, 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever you picked as your standard offset. And you'll notice it does indeed start delayed. And that's the basis of how this effect is founded. And you'll see they end together. So what you want to do is, it's a little bit tedious, yes, but I'm going to go ahead and do one more layer, and then I'll come back when it's done. Just duplicate, move it to the bottom, search for the size parameter. You don't need to link them because we just duplicated one that we linked all the aspect ratios on, so it'd be pointless to do it again. And then size it up so you can see the gap. Or, hold on. It's it's a little bit too big here, and kind of just close that gap. There you go, and offset by 1, 2, 3, 4, and there you go. And you'll want to do that however many times that it takes to fill the screen. And you'll notice it might lag a little bit too much, in which case you might want to decrease the offset by, like, say, make it only 2, you know? Just so it doesn't lag so behind. And then it'll get much more, they'll be much more lined up, but you'll see what I mean. When you fill the whole screen, by the time you get out here, this guy is lagged out by like half a second, and it's like, well, I want them to be a little bit more correlated, so there you go. And that is the basis of that. So I'm going to come back when we have the full screen filled. All right, so we're back, and there we go. Full screen is full. And that's basically just by duplicating and moving them out like that. Now, I'm sure there are probably better ways to do this. I actually have, I think I'll have to take a look, but I've definitely made a rig for this that has like a controller thing up here with like a null. And I've added a whole bunch of color control. I've added these guys and made it so you can change the colors. Because right now, you would have to pick like every fourth and then change the color on it. It's a little bit tedious to change the color. In fact, I would recommend really nailing the colors before duplicating doing all this. Because there are a lot of shape layers here, and it will get tedious if you want to change those later on. So I do recommend keeping those colors. I'm willing to the first person that makes this this effect, whatever you want to call it, Radial Step Wipe effect. If someone in the comments is able to replicate this using one shape layer, I know it's going to make everyone cringe. I'm going to delete my hard work here. Or I'll just hide it. If one of you guys is able to replicate this using one shape layer, a singular shape layer. Oh, I forgot to do one of the outside ones. Just pretend that's not there. One shape layer using... no cheating, too. Because I know you can put multiple shapes in one shape layer. A single ellipse path. Using a single ellipse path, the trim paths, and the repeater. If somehow you're able to do that, I'm willing to PayPal you $5, the first person that's able to do that. Just because I'm a nice person and I want to challenge you guys a little bit. So, yeah, man. Doing all that with one ellipse path and a repeater by going up tier to add and then repeater. I think I talked about repeaters in my previous tutorial. Basically this mumbo jumbo, and then I haven't found a way to do it because you'd have to offset time, so I'm asking you guys to get a little bit creative here. Yeah, so go crazy on that. But that's pretty much it for this tutorial. If you guys did learn something and you got anything at all from this tutorial, I would appreciate you taking one moment and leaving a like. That's just way for me to know that you guys like these sort of tutorials and kind of single effect breakdowns for the intros that I make. And also, you know, I help you. You gotta help me a little bit. You know, it's a trade-on, trade-off type thing. So I'd appreciate it if you guys could give the video a like and maybe share this with someone else who can benefit as well. Like your dog or your gram. Your gram. Who knows? Your gram could be... I would be so hyped if my grandma was into After Effects. That would be sick. But yeah, all jokes aside, I just appreciate you guys helping spread this tutorial around. I do regular commission intros, and I upload them here. So if you're looking for things to look at, if you're getting a little bit, I don't know, you need GFX inspiration. I hardly think my work is inspirational, but it's there. And yeah, dude, that's pretty much it. If you want more tutorials, just let me know, and I'll break down some of the effects that I use in my my intros and all good stuff and things. I'm going to ramble for a little bit because it's been a while since I've done a tutorial, but hopefully I can get back in schedule and start doing these every week. So, yeah, man. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next tut or intro upload or whatever. Alright, see you later. Peace.